Secure, contain, protect, the mandate is clear. We operating in the shadows, feeding off the fear. Deep beneath the surface, in a sight you'll never find. Locking up the nightmares that would fracture every mind. Secure, contain, protect, the mandate is clear. We operating in the shadows, feeding off the fear. Deep beneath the surface, in a sight you'll never find. Locking up the nightmares that would fracture every mind.
All right, people, let's get started. I'm Dr. Damian Wolf. For the newbies in the room, I'm the guy they call when a puzzle is either trying to stab us or, unravel the fabric of reality. Today we're talking about the second one. I've got my industrial-sized thermos of coffee, my trusty yo-yo right here in my pocket, and a whole lot to unpack about one of the quietest but most dangerous items we have. So, welcome to the official briefing on SCP-032. Look, after a long week arguing containment specs with Dr. Harleen and, frankly, dodging whatever sharp object SCP-0762 felt like throwing that day, you just get tired. You get tired of teeth and claws and things that scream in languages that make your nose bleed. So, I turn my attention to something different. Something quiet. A puzzle box. An unassuming little simulacrum that just might be one half of a weapon that could end everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
Okay, let's get into the weeds here. Before we touch the whole reality failure part of the program, you need to understand what SCP-032 actually is. Because on the surface, it's pretty simple. But underneath is where the real cruelty of its design begins. So what are we looking at? A meticulously crafted imitation of a person. From a distance, you'd think she was a woman in her late 20s. But get closer, and it's all synthetic. The skin? It's 5.5 millimeters of pigmented silicone. The hair is just plastic fiber. And on the inside, there are no bones, no muscles, no organs, no beating heart. It's just oil. Black, refined, sterile oil. It's a doll, plain and simple. But one built with a horrifying level of precision. It can walk, it can talk, it can even think. Sort of. Now this is where it gets really strange. This is its main party trick. SCP-032 basically creates a biological dead zone around itself. It doesn't have to attack anything, it just radiates this aura that switches life off. It suppresses all biological energy exchange. Plants in its vicinity, they stop photosynthesizing. Animals, their respiratory and digestive systems just fail. Even the bacteria in the soil, their reproductive systems get fried. It is, for all intents and purposes, a walking, talking biological void.
So, the big question is, why? Why would someone build something like this? Why craft a life-erasing doll with such incredible care? And the answer, as it so often is around here, is just pure cruelty. But we're not talking about petty human cruelty. Oh no. This is something on a cosmic scale. A very specific, very patient, and profoundly dangerous kind of cruelty.
And get this, it didn't fight us. It didn't resist at all. One morning, it just appeared. Sitting on the doorstep of Site-99 waiting. When we asked what it was doing here, its answer was chilling. It said it was delivered by its creators to be stored until claimed. It turned itself in, you see, because we, the Foundation, are an unwitting part of the weapon's design. We are the safe deposit box for a metaphysical bomb.
And this is the gut punch. The person who is meant to claim this package, that would be another anomaly we know all too well, SCP-1440, an old man cursed to wander the Earth forever, whose mere presence causes the immediate and catastrophic collapse of anything human beings have ever built. And SCP-032, it was built as a perfect, empty replica of the wife he lost centuries ago. She isn't a memorial, she's a punishment, a final, agonizing torment designed for a man who is already living in his own personal hell.
But it's actually worse than just a replica. This isn't a tribute, it's a mockery. Its creators engineered it to despise the very woman it's based on. It feels this programmed, seething resentment for the realness it can never have, for the memories it possesses but never actually experienced. Every synthetic fiber, every single drop of oil inside it, is infused with a manufactured hatred. And that's a key part of the mechanism. It turns this tragic lure into a beacon of pure, concentrated negativity.
Which brings me to my theory. The whole reason you're all sitting here today. This isn't just about tormenting one very unlucky old man. The stakes are so much higher. What we are looking at are the two halves of a weapon system designed to cause a ZK-class reality failure. I call it the Damocles synthesis.
It's almost elegant, in a completely terrifying way. Look at the two pieces of the puzzle. On one hand, you have SCP-1440, the catalyst. His presence destroys the anthrosphere. Everything humanity builds just crumbles to dust. Then on the other hand, you have SCP-032, the lure. Her presence destroys the biosphere. All non-human life just withers and dies. One erases our works, the other erases the world our works are built on. They are perfect, horrifying mirror images of total destruction.
So the critical question becomes, what happens when these two forces, these two perfectly opposed engines of decay, finally meet? The answer isn't just the end of the world. It's so much worse than that.
Right. A ZK-class event is not your garden variety apocalypse. It's not an asteroid, it's not a plague, it's not a nuclear winter, it's the end of reality itself. The fundamental laws of physics, the very fabric of existence, it all just stops. Imagine being unwritten from the source code of the universe. It's not death, it's the state of never having existed in the first place. Total, irreparable destruction. Game over, no continues, no high score.
So I want you to really genuinely consider this. What happens if the catalyst, SCP-1440, on his endless, complex, random path across the globe, is finally drawn here, to this specific containment unit? What happens when the man who unmakes civilization finds the thing that unmakes nature, a thing that wears the face of his greatest love and just boils with hatred for her memory?
Yeah, it ends with the whole board flipping. This isn't some chess game where you lose a piece or even get checkmated. No, this is that moment where your opponent gets so furious they just flip the entire table over, scattering all the pieces and smashing the board to bits. The game itself ceases to exist. That is what a convergence event between 032 and 1440 would be. Which leads us to the grim reality of what we do here. The part of the job description they conveniently leave out during orientation. The part that keeps people like me awake at night, staring at the ceiling, even after a full thermos of dark roast. What exactly is our role in all of this?
This is the burden we carry. By containing SCP-032, by securing her, protecting her, we have become the custodians of a rigged explosive. We are actively hoarding one half of the doomsday weapon that could annihilate our reality. Every single day we keep her safe in here is another day we risk him finding her. It's an impossible, terrifying catch-22, and we are stuck right in the middle.
And that brings us to you. The theory is terrifying. I get it. But here in the Foundation, we turn terror into procedure. We turn existential dread into checklists. Your job is to make damn sure that board never, ever flips. So listen up. This is what you need to know.
Your protocol is simple and it is absolute. Number 1, absolute silence. No signals in or out that aren't shielded and triple encrypted. We cannot risk so much as a whisper of her location reaching the outside world. 2, anti-tracking measures are doubled, then backed up with countermeasures. To the rest of the world, this place must be a ghost. 3 and 4 are basic containment integrity. Monitor the field constantly for any fluctuations and ensure zero contact with external biologicals. We keep her effect completely sealed. And 5, this is the most important one. If you see anything out of the ordinary, anything anomalous, you report it. Immediately, no hesitation. Do you understand?
That's all I've got for you today. Don't ever forget that your diligence, your ability to follow that checklist down to the letter is the only thing standing between consensus reality and the flip of a board. So stay awake, stay alert, and please, for the love of everything that is, was, or ever will be, do your jobs.
Secure, contain, protect, the mandate is clear. We operating in the shadows, feeding off the fear. Deep beneath the surface, in a sight you'll never find. Locking up the nightmares that would fracture every mind.
All right, people, settle in. And on behalf of everyone who's been doing this a while, welcome to the Foundation. Now, today's briefing isn't about some anomaly we can just lock in a box and forget about. No, today is about SCP-1440. He is, for all intents and purposes, a walking, talking, permanent containment breach. And what you're about to learn in this module, well, it could save your life, it could save your entire site. And I'm usually one for dramatic flair, but I am not exaggerating when I say it could save all of reality. So please, pay attention.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, I'm going to tell you a little story about a recent encounter. Then, we'll get into the weeds on who this man actually is and where his unique problem comes from. After that, we'll review our own spectacular history of failure in trying to contain him. Then we get to the really scary part, the Damocles synthesis and the ZK-class threat.
And finally, we'll wrap up with your field protocol, the rules you will follow no matter what. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's start with a little story time. A few months back, our tracking systems just exploded with alerts, lit up like a Christmas tree. SCP-1440, who usually wanders through the most desolate places on Earth, was making a beeline directly for us, right here at Site 19. Now, you have to understand, you can't just send an MTF to stop this guy. You can't put up a roadblock. Any kind of direct, human-made opposition just makes things catastrophically worse. We needed a gentle nudge, not a brick wall. And that's where I came in. I filled up the biggest thermos of coffee I could find, jumped in a bare-bones rover, and just drove out into the desert to meet him. No weapons, no containment gear, nothing. Because any of that stuff, any of our standard procedures, would have just acted like fuel on a fire. The situation called for a conversation, not a confrontation. And believe me, the stakes were way, way bigger than just Site 19.
So I find him, and that's the very first thing he says to me. Not hello, not who the hell are you, just this incredibly calm, tired warning. I mean, think about it. I'm standing in the middle of a desert, and this old man is telling me that one of the brothers of death is literally standing right behind me. The most chilling part? He knew. He knew the danger he was putting me in just by existing near me, and he was genuinely trying to get me to leave. He didn't want any of this to happen.
Somehow I managed to convince him to change his path. He just nodded and walked away. But here's the kicker. The entire conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes, and in the 10 minutes after he left, the engine block on my rover melted into a pile of slag. That's his effect. It's a passive, localized entropy field. Anything made by human hands, cars, buildings, you name it, it just starts to fall apart in his presence. And yes, that includes people. It was a very, very long walk back.
So, that's the what. Now let's dig into the why. Let's look at the official file. Who is this man, and how did he end up with a curse that forces him to wander the earth, literally bringing ruin wherever he steps? It's a pretty tragic story, actually, and it's the foundation for what is, without a doubt, one of the most serious threats we monitor.
Okay, and this is the most important part to understand. He isn't malicious. He doesn't do anything to cause this destruction. He just is. His very presence is the problem. The longer he stays near anything human, the worse things get. It starts small, maybe headaches, a little nausea for anyone nearby. Then electronics start to fritz. Then machines fail catastrophically. Structures begin to crumble. And eventually, people die. It's a passive, persistent catastrophe that he has absolutely no control over. He tries to avoid us. He really does. But something is always forcing him to wander. And his path inevitably crosses with humanity.
And here's the something that's forcing him. According to him, he's being hounded by 3, let's call them metaphysical entities. The 3 brothers' death. The first and second are always with him, pushing him, guiding his path toward destruction. He told me, out there in the desert, that the second brother had his hands on my shoulders the whole time. Now the third brother, he's different. He represents freedom. He's the only one who can actually end this curse, but he never, ever shows up. It's the cruelest joke imaginable, right? To have salvation dangled in front of you for eternity, but always just out of reach?
So how did this all start? It's almost absurdly simple. The story he tells is that long, long ago, he challenged death to a game of cards for his own life. And he won. You have to get this through your heads. This curse, this endless wandering, this life of watching everything and everyone you encounter turn to dust, this isn't his punishment for losing. This is his prize for winning. The ultimate monkey's paw.
So, naturally, when an entity like this first appears on our radar, what's the first thing the Foundation does? We do what we always do. We try to stick it in a box. And with SCP-1440, it has never, ever worked. In fact, every single attempt has been a complete, unmitigated disaster, almost entirely of our own making.
Just look at our track record. The very first time we brought him in for containment, we lost the entire site. A few attempts later, at Area 142, his passive entropy effect got so strong, it managed to trigger the on-site nuclear device. Yes, you heard me. It bypassed multiple redundant failsafes and detonated a nuke. We have tried to contain this man 5 separate times, and 5 separate times it has ended in catastrophic failure, costing us sites, resources, and hundreds of personnel. So as of now, all containment efforts are suspended. Indefinitely. We can't afford it.
Let's just focus on Area 142 for a second. The final result?
Total destruction of the containment site. 100% of all on-site personnel killed. 6 other contained anomalies were either destroyed or lost in the event. The outcome is always the same. Catastrophic failure. And here's the thing to remember. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't try to escape. He usually just sits there and warns us that what we're doing is a bad idea. And then his curse does the rest.
And all of this, brings us to why my little unsanctioned desert road trip was so critical. Because the real threat here isn't just losing another site or another 100 researchers. The true stakes are, well, everything. This is my own theoretical framework, something I've dubbed the Damocles synthesis, and it outlines what I believe is the single greatest existential threat that SCP-1440 poses to our reality.
Look, you've all been briefed on XK-class end-of-the-world scenarios. I want you to take that concept and put it aside. A ZK-class reality failure scenario is infinitely worse. We're not talking about the end of human civilization. We're talking about the end of reality itself. The fundamental laws of physics just stop. The very concept of cause and effect breaks down. It's not the death of our planet, it is the end of existence, full stop.
So how do we get to that? Well, the synthesis requires 2 very specific components. The first piece is SCP-1440. He's the catalyst, this roaming field of entropy. The second piece is an anomaly we already have in containment, designated SCP-032. It's a simulacrum made of silicone and polymer that was crafted by some unknown and frankly unbelievably cruel intelligence. Why? Because it was made to look exactly like SCP-1440's wife, who died centuries ago. It's not a person, it's a lure, a piece of bait designed for one specific, horrifying purpose.
And the equation here is terrifyingly simple. You have the catalyst, SCP-1440, wandering the globe, and you have the lure, SCP-032, in one of our facilities. If the catalyst ever reaches the lure, if those 2 anomalies come into contact, the resulting metaphysical friction would be enough to tear the fabric of space-time to shreds. The whole chessboard gets wiped clean. It's game over for everyone and everything. Which means our single most important job is to make sure they never, ever meet. Which, finally, brings us to you and your job. We can't contain him. We've proven that. So we have to manage him. And you are the front line. Your entire job boils down to 3 things. Track him, predict his path, and make absolutely sure that path never, ever intersects with a Foundation facility or, for that matter, any major population center.
I want you to burn this number into your brain. 50 kilometers. That's it. 50 kilometers. That is the absolute minimum safe distance. It is our hard red line. Under no circumstances is SCP-1440 ever to get within 50 kilometers of any Foundation site or populated area. There are no exceptions to this. There are no excuses. This one rule, this buffer zone, is quite literally the only thing keeping our reality stitched together.
So if you ever find yourself in the field, on his trail, this checklist becomes your religion. Let's be crystal clear. You do not attempt to contain him. You do not obstruct his path. You do not even have a long conversation with him. Your job is to observe from a safe distance, report every movement immediately, and be ready to evacuate any and all assets that are in his way. Do not try to be a hero. Just remember what happened to my rover after 5 minutes. Remember what happened to Area 142. The cost of failure here is not something we can afford to pay.
And that leaves us with the ethical mess of it all. This man wants nothing more than to die. He has begged us on multiple occasions to find a way to destroy him, to end his suffering, but we can't grant that. We absolutely cannot, because the one thing in the universe that might bring him peace, the simulacrum of his wife, is also the trigger for universal annihilation. So our containment procedure is to keep him walking, to force him to live on, forever alone, forever a plague. It's a horrible, necessary cruelty. And it's a question I want you all to think about. What's the greater cruelty here, his curse or our solution? That's all. Dismissed.